Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session of Balance in Life, Saving Lives Together. I'm Crystal Tyler Mackey, welcoming you on behalf of Virginia Cooperative Extension, the Human Development Program team, in partnership with NC State University. We are going to jump right into this important topic, and we are so happy that we have a return speaker to our Balance in Life series backed by popular demand. We have Alan Rasmussen to talk us through issues related to suicide prevention, and awareness. So I'm going to quickly turn it over to Alan. Welcome, Alan.
Well, I want to say I'm glad to be here today, and I am looking forward to doing this presentation. I also want to thank you for having me and for everybody being here to be part of this. So, look, my name is Alan Rasmussen, and I am a prevention specialist with Rappahannock Rapidan Community Services based in Culpeper, Virginia. The focus of my work has been on suicide prevention, and I started this work in 2003. And in that time that I've been doing this work, I have actually trained over 40,000 youth and adults to be what are called suicide prevention gatekeepers. And I also like to note that I am certified as a mental health first aid trainer and an adverse childhood experience master trainer. One of the most important actions a community can take to address suicide is to train community members to be gatekeepers who can recognize the warning signs and clues of suicide and connect those in distress and or having thoughts of suicide to appropriate services and support. Now, we know that this coronavirus pandemic is impacting individuals of all ages physically, mentally, and emotionally. It is also having a devastating impact on employment, housing, and the overall stability of the lives of many of our community members. We all may feel vulnerable, especially individuals suffering from mental health disorders or those who have experienced trauma in the past. Today, I want to talk about how we can identify and help individuals in distress, individuals who may be experiencing feelings of hopelessness, individuals who may be thinking about suicide. Please be aware that we have lost in 2017 47,143 community members to suicide. That is 129 suicides per day. So today, I want to teach you how to recognize someone in distress and what steps you can take to help this person stay safe and potentially save a life. Now, as let me move through this slide here. I want to talk about suicide clues and warning signs. And I want to make a note here before I start. I want you to remember that signs are what we see, and symptoms are what someone is actually experiencing. We will not know what someone is experiencing unless we talk with them and explore what we see. So this training today is about recognizing signs and clues, and it's also going to be about how you approach someone, talk to them, and determine what they're experiencing, what they're feeling, and to determine whether or not they're having thoughts of suicide. So keep in mind, when we think about suicide clues and warning signs, the more clues and signs you see, the greater the risk. But please take all signs seriously, because you may not see all the signs. You may just be seeing one of the signs. I also like to mention that there is evidence-based research that says that individuals who are in distress want someone to know of their distress. So the way I look at it is, if I'm seeing a sign and if you see a sign, likely this person may want you to see the sign, and they may want you to get involved and help. So I want to talk about risk factors. I break all these clues into categories. One is risk factors. So one of the biggest risk factors for suicide is a previous suicide attempt. If someone's made a previous attempt, they are statistically 38 times more likely to make another attempt. So it is the biggest risk factor there is. If someone's talking about suicide, or they are making an organized plan on how they would take their life, this is a significant risk factor. If they are preoccupied with death and dying, that can be in their thoughts, music they listen to, what they maybe read about, maybe they journal about it, they write about it. When people experience depression or other mental illnesses, that is a risk factor. Now, we spend a lot of time not trying to stigmatize mental health disorders, but the fact is 90% of the people who try to take their life or do suffer from a mental illness such as depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and they also include substance use disorders in that group. So it is a risk factor. Alcohol and or drug use. And with youth, when you look at youth, any substance use can have some harmful effects, and suicide could be one. That concept that people use to self-medicate. And if you know an adult who's using drugs or alcohol and it's impacting their life negatively, they may have a substance use disorder, and there is a major connection, like I said, to depression and thoughts of suicide with overuse. Another risk factor that we need to talk about is if we know someone, a family or a friend who's tried to take their life, or a family or friend who has died by suicide, it can have a devastating impact on those that care about this individual. And it could be a whole community can be affected. Now, I need to tell you something at this point. In the years I've done this work, it's been since 2003, I have a story for every line I have in this PowerPoint presentation. I don't have the time to explain every story, but I am going to do some, and this is an important piece here. I actually facilitate a Survivors for Life support group that is sponsored by a community coalition I work with called Team Jordan. And this Team Jordan is made up of family and friends who lost Jordan Jenkins, the son of the Team Jordan family, to suicide. And they wanted to do something about this. They put together a coalition. I'm a member of the coalition, and I help facilitate the Survivors for Life support group. It's critical that people who or have lost a loved one to suicide, that we check with them to see what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, because it is a risk factor for suicidal thoughts. Victims of physical or sexual abuse are at risk. Victims of assault or bullying. I don't mind saying, I see a lot of bullying in the schools when I go in to do presentations. A lot of young people come forward and say, hey, I need help. I'm being bullied. That's the number one reason they come up to me. And, and I also closely work with SAFE, to handle domestic violence cases and sexual abuse, and train their staff to keep an eye on individuals they work with. So now, sometimes another clue could be direct verbal clues. People who are in distress, sometimes they'll tell you directly what they're feeling. It could be statements like, hey, I've decided to kill myself. I wish I were dead. I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to end it all. Or this is the conditional one. If such and such doesn't happen, they want this to happen very badly. If it doesn't happen, I'll kill myself. And you can flip that. If such and such does happen, they don't want it to happen. If such and such does happen, I'll kill myself. Now, I have stories where people have heard these comments and sometimes they ignore them or they minimize them. We need to take comments like this seriously and explore what is going on. People can make indirected or coded verbal statements. Here's some examples. Hey, I'm tired of life. I just can't go on. My family would be better off without me. Who cares if I'm dead anyway? I just want out. I won't be around much longer. Pretty soon you won't have to worry about me. Now, I've got a list of other coded verbal clues, but if we hear this, we need to recognize the distress in these statements and explore what's going on. Behavioral clues you might notice: those that take unnecessary risks, they're reckless, they're impulsive. And, I'm going to take a second to tell you, when I first put this presentation together years ago, I wondered about this behavioral clue. And after a talk at a high school one time, a young person came up to me and said, "Mr. Rasmussen, that's me." And I thought, I'm going to get an education. This young person is going to tell me exactly what this looks like. And he said, "You know what? Here's a quote." He said, "I don't want to live, but I don't have the guts to kill myself. So what do? I go out and do crazy, dangerous things. If something happens to me, so what?" So, I mean, that's a great example. Unexplained anger, aggression, irritability, anxiety. I don't mind saying probably most people try to avoid people like this and not be around them, but these are all symptoms of depression. So when and look, Crystal mentioned a little bit with me before. I used to do parole work for 28 years, and I saw a number of people that were angry, and I would just say to them, "Hey, you're angry." And they might say, "Hey, what are you talking about?" And I go, "Well, that's what I'm talking about there, man." And then they don't realize they're doing this stuff. They don't realize they're angry. They don't realize they're irritable. They don't realize they're over worrying. So these are, like I said, symptoms of depression. And a lot of people are impacted and they don't even know they're doing this stuff. So dramatic changes in behavior or mood, feelings of sadness, crying for no apparent reason, maybe feelings of uselessness, worthlessness. I have no value. I'm not needed. Self-destructive acts, and I'm talking about self-injury, cutting, picking, hair pulling, lip biting. Anytime someone causes themselves physical pain with the purpose of it relieving some internal psychological distress they're having, that's self-injury. And we need to identify these people and get them help. Now, I got to tell you, I've talked to a lot of people that do this, and they tell me they found a way to stay alive because it does relieve their distress. But it's not the best way to get the help they need. So perfectionism, this pressure to succeed or achieve, you can see that in students. You can see with adults. If something doesn't work out, it's got to be just like this, or they feel like they're a failure. And so we need to help them see gray areas. Seeking access to the means. And what am I saying here? When someone decides they're going to take their life, they have to have a way to do it. And there's many ways that people can do it, but most likely it's a firearm. It can be hanging. It can be taking prescription medications or drugs, giving away prized possessions, getting their affairs in order, and saying goodbyes. I've seen situations where students will say, "Hey, it's been nice being with you during school here. Summer's coming. Just want to let you know I'm glad it was nice knowing you." And later, after the fact, people realize, "Oh my gosh, this person was saying goodbye after they took their life." So we need to be alert to any of these things. And a lot of times people say, "Hey, that sounded odd." Something sounds odd. a behavior looks dramatic or out of character, check it out. It's worth seeing what people are feeling, what they're experiencing. So situational clues, family problems. That's one. That's a big one with kids. It's a big one with adults. Loss of any major relationship. Now I tell you the word loss. This could be a death. It could be a divorce where a kid doesn't get to see one of the family members. It could be anybody who loses someone they love. It could be, I've had people come to me and say, hey, I lost my pet that I've had for 16 years, and they're extremely depressed and other things going on, and they're having thoughts of suicide. So I want to say one thing in the middle right now. When we look at these clues, we need to have this mindset that what's possible if somebody's experienced this loss or having family problems or they didn't get the grade they want. What's possible? All the years I've been around, I can tell you right now, anything's possible. The sky can be the limit. So what the beautiful part of this training today is when you think what's possible, your mind's going to tell you, I'm going to explore what's going on. I'm going to see what's probable and see about keeping this person safe and see what they're thinking about and what they're feeling. So this is how we make a difference. And I'm always be alert to what's possible and be an explorer. So a diagnosis of a serious or terminal illness. I want to throw when people have physical disabilities, we need to be sensitive to what individuals are feeling that are going through that. Other health problems, chronic pain. This stuff, the chronic pain people I know, they feel like they're being tortured every day. And after a while, they're sick of it. They can't take it. Financial problems are big, and they've always been big, but they are a big time issue right now. So this could be individuals' financial problems, family financial problems, loss of employment, can't make bills, can't pay the house payments, and you're seeing a lot of that in the news. People are being evicted at high rates right now because they can't make their bills, their payments. A sudden loss of freedom or a fear of punishment. Now, I mean, you may look at that and think about it a little bit, but I'll give an example. When I used to do parole work, sometimes people didn't succeed and they needed to go back to court, maybe back to jail. When you look at the juvenile justice system, a lot of the depression and suicidal thoughts and actions occur right before a young person is sentenced, thinking they're going to be taken away from their family, their friends, and then maybe the fear of being punished. A young person that maybe gets in trouble at school, and they go, "Oh my gosh, when I go home, I'm going to get in real trouble." It can affect people differently. I've seen it all. I can tell you, feelings of being trapped, feelings like there's no way out. I mean, that's a great description of hopelessness if I've ever seen it. I'm in this situation, I don't like it, and I don't see any way out. I'm trapped. What in the world am I going to do? There are people that are in that situation. We need to, I always like to mention too, when people experience this distress, these blinders go on. Emotional distress blocks, puts a vice on your brain so you can't think clearly, you can't see alternatives. And so we need to be the eyes for people and the support sometimes. Some other clues that I want to mention, those that withdraw from family, friends, social activities, hobbies they used to have, they they kind of lose their interest in living, and so they isolate themselves. And recent disappointment or rejection. People have hopes, they have dreams. Maybe they want to be part of a club or have a relationship with somebody, and they get rejected or they get disappointed because it doesn't work out. And people react differently. We need to see what they're feeling, what they're experiencing after that. Physical symptoms that you might notice can be eating disturbances, eating too much, eating too little. And I know I've definitely seen people that are severely depressed, and it's like they lose their appetite, man. It's like they're wasting away. And, sometimes people eat to feel better. It goes either way. There can be changes in sleep patterns. If people talk about they go to bed, maybe they go to sleep initially, but then they wake up and at all hours of the night, their mind is going a mile a minute. They've got anxiety, or sometimes they sleep too much and can't seem to get any energy or wake up. It goes both ways. So we just need to be alert and explore. Me, when I'm working with people, or talking to people, I like to ask them anything. Hey, if I'm working with somebody, I go, hey, how'd you sleep last night? And sometimes they'll look at me like, what's he talking about? But I'm just exploring. Hey, they might say, I didn't get a good night's sleep. Oh, well, what's up? You never know what you'll get when you just talk and explore stuff with people. And you can have people can have chronic headaches, they can have stomach problems. And I mean, they have that when they're not sick, so it could be distress making their headache. It could make their stomach nervous. And sometimes, and I've seen this, when people are really bad off, sometimes they just stop taking care of themselves. They neglect their hygiene, their physical appearance. And you're thinking, what's going on here? Time to explore and ask questions. Increased apathy. And, this apathy is big because to me, apathy is when people are always making the statements like, hey, so what? Big deal. Doesn't matter to me. Nothing seems to matter much to them. And it's close to displaying this hopelessness, an inability to concentrate or make decisions. And I've seen this too. They can't think clearly. So, I've got a slide here, and I got a little hook now. Warning signs and clues. If you see these things, you're now in a position to get involved, to explore what's going on. So I like this slide here about how do you initiate that process? What are some helpful things you can say that can get you in the middle of talking to somebody and exploring what's going on? I like these statements here. I'm just going to read them to you. I'm concerned about you. What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? How long have you been feeling like this? I can see that you are distressed. I want to help. Something seems to be bothering you. Do you want to talk about it? Invite your way in. I care. I will listen and try to understand. These are all great statements to try to get someone to talk to you. Now, remember, those considering suicide will likely respond positively to sincere interest, concern, not worry, concern, and active listening. Now, a key, let's say are involved, you talk to somebody, you're listening to them, and you're wondering, I want to make sure this person's safe. So something you'll need to do is be able to ask a suicide question. You're going to have to ask if they're thinking of suicide. Sometimes this is a difficult step for people. There's this old misconception, hey, if I use the word suicide, and they weren't thinking about it, oh my gosh, I'm going to somehow cause it to happen. That's the biggest myth there is. Talking about suicide does not make it happen. It is definitely the one thing that can prevent it. And I know this. I'm telling you, I've done this work. I've been doing it a long time. I don't just talk it, I do it. So talking about it helps people come forward, open up, and get the help they need. So here's just a rule of thumb. If the word suicide has crossed your mind about someone who seems depressed, it's probably crossed their mind too. So get involved, ask the question. So A couple other points here. Suicidal people have most likely been trying to communicate their pain and desperation to others. If you see it, maybe they're showing you that. They want you to get involved. And until now, no one has come forward and talked to them. You know the signs, you're involved. So remember, just be empathetic, listen to the person, and care. Now, ways to ask the question. I like to put this out here. You want to ask directly whether the person is suicidal. So here's how you do that. Are you having thoughts of suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Now, I'm going to slide in here and say something. I don't usually like to don't talk, but I've heard people say, "Are you okay? Are you thinking about hurting yourself?" You want to just use the word suicide and the words I'm using right here. Don't avoid that. Sometimes people don't want to use that word suicide. You need to say, "Are you having thoughts of suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself?" And I'm going to tell you, I've with my years of experience, I also like to ask, are you having or have you had thoughts of suicide? Interestingly enough, if I'm talking to somebody in the here and now and I go, are you having thoughts of suicide? They think I'm talking about right now, this moment sometimes. And I've learned it's not everybody, so I always expand it in, are you having thoughts or have you had? So then and they'll go, well, yes, I have. So when did you last think about suicide? This morning, they say, or maybe it was last week. How often do you think about suicide? Well, every day, every hour, that kind of thing. So don't be afraid to ask those things. And I always get asked this question, what about this day and age with these rampage killings? And I do rampage killing prevention presentations with the active shooter training in my area. And I always tell them, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about harming someone else? And I've asked this and I've had people say, yes, I am. So, it's, you head some things off when you do that. So, if there's a yes to the answer, if yes is the answer to any question that you've asked, then you want to ask whether the person has a plan. You can do that by, have you decided how you're going to kill yourself? Have you decided when you would do it? Do you have what you need to carry out your plan? The more prepared they are, the greater the risk it's going to happen. So we need to get in the middle of that. Ways not to ask the question. You're not thinking of suicide, are you? You're just kidding about killing yourself, right? Asking this way can encourage a negative response from the person. It might imply that you're frightened by the intensity of their feelings. I encourage you to be aware of your own nonverbal clues. Look the person in the eye, let them know you care. I can help, and radiate that, and just do what you got to do to link them to help. Now, a couple other tips. Listen to the person to give him or her your full attention. Be calm and non-judgmental. I like to mention this too. Don't rush to the life side of things. Sometimes people say, hey, you don't want to think like that. You don't want to do that. You got so much to live for. You need to make sure you understand all the reasons this person wants to die. So then you can know what is really going on. And me, I like to do the what if. What if I could get you help for your relationship? What if I could get you help for this, that? What if we could stop that bullying? And they'll go, you can do that? That's possible, because their mind has got the clamp on it. So if you proceed in that way, you can get people the help they need. You want to offer hope, and you do that by continually telling them there's help, there's alternatives and resources available that can help you. Remember, suicide is not the problem, it's the perceived solution to ending the person's pain. You want to persist in statements that a better alternative can be found. You want to focus on solutions to problems and encourage problem solving on their part. Get them in the here and now, get them on the life side. Accept that the person's pain is real, but keep offering alternatives. And there's that statement there about intense emotional distress can blind people to alternative solutions and available resources. They need you to be there. A couple more slides, and I'll be done. Certain intense emotional or affective states may suggest a suicide crisis in individuals who suffer from depression. I often get asked, hey, if they're thinking about it, when might they do it? If you see intense desperation, extreme hopelessness, you see rage, the highest form of anger. People are having these extreme feelings of abandonment. There's nobody. I have no one. Self hatred. You know, they can hate themselves enough that they want to be dead. And extreme anxiety. This can be dangerous. So be alert to these extreme feelings and be ready to, contact 911. So connecting someone to resources and support. The one slide I want to put up is this National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. There's the number and there's the link. If you want to try to make a connection nationally, you can call that number and they will help you. And I know with our local area, when I do presentations, I usually advertise how to contact our agency directly. But for the purposes of this presentation, I want to have that National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And at this point, I'm going to stop share and turn it over to Crystal because she has some other resources.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alan. Wow, a lot to cover in a very short period of time. We know that there was a very active chat going on as well, Alan, while you were speaking, and some specific questions. So I'm going to offer that if you have a specific question that you wanted to pose to Alan and we're not able to, if you would email that to me, the one that sent you the link for all of this, cmtyler@vt.edu, and we'll try to ensure that we get those answers for you. But we will also send out the recording from this session as well as the PowerPoint slide deck and some additional resources. So having said that, you see here there's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the SAMHSA line, and then many of the participants are from Virginia and North Carolina on today. We have some specific state resources available as well, but we do want to honor the closing time. So thank you all for being here. Alan, thank you so much again for taking us through such an important topic. And we know we just hit the highlights, but we certainly wanted to bring about a level of awareness. And again, if you need additional information or resources, if you will email me and I'll reach out to Alan and be sure we try to get you connected with the right resources or get some good responses. So having said that, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Thank you, Alan, again, just for top-notch information. And
Let's
thank you.
save some lives together here. That's what we're going to do, all right?
Let's do it, everybody. Let's go save some lives. Be brave and ask the tough questions. Thanks all, and have a great weekend.